We haven't been here for a while. So number 3 is nothing wrong with speaking up. And I posted something on Facebook that said, you deserve what you tolerate.
Ooh, I remember that.
And I had some negative comments written on there on you deserve what you tolerate. And the comments were like, I'm a bully. And I wish I could pull them up right now and say what those comments were. But I thought to myself, first of all, I didn't respond back to those comments because those people are in such a state of panic. When you deserve what you tolerate from their perspective of abuse that they're constantly going through, I could actually see what they think, even though if they thought more logically, they would realize that that's not at all what I'm saying.
So they were coming from the perspective that you were the bully and you were saying, well, if you take it, you deserve it. Is that what you?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, see, I didn't even pick up on that. That's really
Yes.
interesting, actually.
And because the environment is so toxic and they're so freaking dog eat dog and always blaming, like, oh, it's not me, it's them, or finding like diverting, like, I know I did some crap wrong, so I'm going to divert the attention to somebody else who did something even more wrong, you know? So since they're like that, I was like, and it took me a long time, it took me like days to understand it. I kept reading it over and over again, debating whether I should respond or not respond. But coming from that culture and a person who's so abused and so, I don't know, just so stressed and full of anxiety and having all the pressures of that job, I could see that. But if they could take a step back and like analyze it the same way I analyzed their comment, they would understand that when I said that you deserve what you tolerate is exactly right into rule number 3, that there's nothing wrong with speaking up. So why don't people speak up for themselves? Like, why don't they set boundaries with their boss? This whole new generation that they think is so difficult to work with, they are obsessed with, you're not going to talk to me like that. You're not going to treat me like that because I found a job when I was looking for this one. And I don't blame them.
No, it is really interesting though that you're saying that, because I never thought about it coming from that perspective. But it's almost like it's so fear-based too. They're scared to speak up because they're scared of what's going to happen to them. Like there's some like boogie monster behind behind the television, or the television, the behind the computer screen that's going to jump out at them. And, like, I don't, like, what's the worst that can happen? They're not going to fire you for speaking up. They can't. I mean, I can think of a couple times I spoke up and it was uncomfortable, but you have to speak up if you want things to change. You can't sit there in the same environment and expect different things to happen. Isn't that the definition of insanity, right?
Yeah. I was just thinking, I just wrote down what you said. What's the worst that can happen? Okay. The worst that's happened to me when I've spoken up. So it really depends on the scenario. I was on a telecon when Zoom first kind of started. And you know how Zoom has that hesitation. So you can't tell when the person's pausing and it's like, sounds like it's overlapping. Right. So I remember being on a telecon with the MPOO and some different postmasters and some district employees and stuff. And I was a postmaster of a level 18 at the time. And I remember them saying to me, like, they're asking something and then I'm speaking. And then I kept like kind of talking over the MPOO. I wasn't trying to, because on my end, there sounded like there was pause, right?
Right.
So he gets pissed about it. So instead of just thinking, oh, this is a new piece of equipment, maybe there's a glitch in IT. No, it's automatic. Virginia's rude and interrupting, right? Like, which is just so narrow-minded to automatically think that this person is the problem rather than all the other things and excuses he could have made for me. In that meeting, he says to me, Virginia, I don't want you to talk unless I ask you a direct question. Do you understand? And I'm like, yes. So he goes on and on and on and on. about whatever the heck he was talking about. And then at the end of it, he just says, Virginia. And that's a statement. That's my name. So I stay full quiet because I can follow directions. And he's like, Virginia, full quiet. Are you there? Yes. Why aren't you talking? You didn't ask a question. And that was that. And I'll have to tell you that after that day, that man called me back after the telecon. Now, he was a good leader, though. He was a good leader. He understood how to deal with people. I thought he was actually really good at that because afterwards he called back and we talked about it. We talked it out. I was like, listen, I'm not trying to interrupt you. I think there was a delay and then I didn't notice I was interrupting you. And then he's like, I understand your point and I'm sorry the way I did that. I shouldn't have done that in front of your peers. And like he apologized and everything. And after that, that guy was so good to me, that MPOO. I mean, he even let me go to this Harry Potter thing over at Universal Studios, you know, like an unveiling of the stamp. I just asked him, like, I love Harry Potter and it's the post office and it's stamps. It's my two worlds coming together. Please let me go. And he totally let me go. And I think that was an awesome way for me to like speak up. So there was nothing wrong with speaking up. Now,
Well,
go ahead.
I think you made a good point there. It's how you speak up. Because when you tell people speak up, they automatically think conflict and negativity and yell and be confrontational. And that's not at all what we're talking about.
Right. It's just standing your ground for the levels of respect that you feel you deserve. You're an adult. You got paid to do a job. You got hired to do that job because they think you can do that job. So let me do the job. And then sometimes they're so chaotic because of the pressure they're getting that they forget that, hello, we're all here to do a job. Because in another scenario, I was on a telecon and the district manager, I was covering for my boss. And then the district manager asked a question I did not have the answer for. So when I didn't have the answer for it, I literally said, I apologize. I don't have the answer for that. I just got asked to cover this meeting. I will get back to you with the answer. So then she turns around and says, well, future wise, in front of everybody, trying to be like, you know, ha power, hungry cockiness. Future, maybe don't throw your boss under the bus. And I didn't like that because first of all, I don't want my boss to think I threw them under the bus. Right. So everyone starts running to my boss and then ruins my relationship. So I had to take a risk. So I just jumped in there and said, well, I apologize. I didn't realize telling the truth is throwing your boss under the bus. I'll make note of that for the future. And crickets. Then, of course, DM, she did not like it. But at the same time, I think she respected it.
Right.
And because she knew I was on a detail at the time. And she knew from my own office before as a postmaster, we like made the numbers, we made the money, we made the goal. So I think she knew that I was kind of an achiever kind of person.
Right.
Because that goes back to what we talk about SMILE, right? To summon courage, mastering your role,
right,
and then being intentional in your job. And then you can use it as leverage. And that's exactly what happened in that situation. I used it, it was leverage because I knew that I was good. And, you know, if you're junky and then you kind of push back like that, maybe you'll get a different response. But if you would have due diligence and do your job, you're going to get respect as long as you don't be just, you know, don't ask for respect while you are being disrespectful.
Yeah, agreed.
Because then that's like a power move. Like you're doing a challenge, like, okay, challenge accepted. And if they're authority over you, then you're going to get it. It's a bad idea.
It is a bad idea, but you do have to speak up for yourself. Because if you don't speak up for yourself, they're just going to keep running over you, or they're going to think that you're ineffective. They're not going to have any confidence in you. Sometimes you have to say, "I know how to do that. I can do it." You don't have to babysit me.
Right. And it doesn't, like you said earlier, it doesn't have to be conflict.
No.
You know, it doesn't have to be conflict. And sometimes what you have to do is prepare things in advance. The scenarios are the same almost every day. Prepare something in advance. You know, have something to say in advance. Like if you're not comfortable speaking up for yourself, do some research, read some books, pick up some Simon Sinek, pick up some John C. Maxwell books, read something, join the lively office,
Yeah.
and let somebody or somehow take control of your career. Stop feeling like a victim. Because that comment I wrote on Facebook saying you deserve what you tolerate,
Right.
I kept thinking about it. Should I pull it down? And absolutely not. They deserve what they tolerated because they can say, hey,
It's enough.
this is enough. This is a real world scenario. These are the things I'm experiencing and go through it. But you can't play the victim.
No, because I feel like so many times they feel like they don't say anything, they don't lay out the boundaries, and then when the things come to them, then like you said, they play the victim.
Mhm.
I mean, if I'm going to be miserable anyway, I would much rather have my opinion out there and stand up for myself than just be miserable and not say anything. It doesn't even make any sense, some of these people that, you know, I don't know.
I mean, the worst thing that ever happened to me when I spoke up to myself, and it was almost like a weird form of torture. But in the end of the day, even though while I was in it, because I was such high levels of anxiety and stress, it seemed so much bigger than it really was. Like looking back, I had to go to the postmaster's office. I was a manager of customer service at the time, and I had to go to the postmaster's office, and the manager of customer service put me in a room for 8 hours, and I had to write like a little essay about what had happened the day before. Now, granted, the day before, I still don't regret it. I regret my delivery more than what I said because I did an impromptu visit on my office, and it was definitely like a planned attack because they had a thing against my supervisor. My supervisor
Mm-hmm.
was demoted as a manager. She became the supervisor. She wasn't doing a good job, and they were literally after her. I don't give a crap what anybody ever says. Oh no, they weren't. Yes, they were. They were after her. She was a freaking devoted, devoted manager, and they were after her because she talked back. And I don't know exactly how she talked back or if she placed, blame on them. Maybe she didn't have the skill on how to speak up, but punishment happened. She got yoinked from her office, downgraded to a supervisor, and then she was my supervisor. And then things weren't running good on the city desk. I was super stressed with this impromptu visit. And during this impromptu visit, one of the managers there from a neighboring office was like my nemesis. Okay. For no other word, she was like such a freaking bitch. There's no words for it. She's a freaking bitch ass corporate girl who would stab anybody's back to get whatever the hell she wanted. She was an asshole. And she was there. So just seeing her already like did something to me chemically. I didn't have the skills that I have now to control my reactions, recognize the power that I have in controlling them and not responding.
Mm-hmm.
So what had happened is I let, like, I think they were called TEs back then, basically a CCA. I let them go to their grandmother's bedside because she was dying and she
Yeah.
raised him. So it was a choice. And I was told I had to give this carrier, this employee, a choice. Well, you should have told them that they have a choice, either your job or your grandma. And like the fact that a human being actually said those words to me, it triggered me. I mean, I lost it on the workroom floor, called him a tin man, told him he had no heart, lost my shit, went to the office and extracted extra dramatic because I am a Leo rising. So I put on a big show, ran into the office so pissed, grabbed my purse, whipped it open, started opening this bottle of pill, which by the way was just an aspirin, so I didn't die of a stroke. He doesn't know what it is. And I like put these pills and I swallow them. And then on the way there, extra layer of bullcrap is that my clerks got so in the P.O. box section, they forgot to open the window. So I turned on the extra drama because I told the clerk, open the window. And then I started acting so dramatic so that they didn't know that I forgot to open the window. And it totally earned me an 8-hour day doing a book report. So
But
I'm
I
not
think
saying you're not going to get in trouble for speaking up, but whatever. I didn't get fired. And at the end of the day, I still had my job. And just like everything else, they forget about the things you do. There's MPOOs and district managers and headquarters employees hiring their girlfriends, having sex in offices. So chances are you're going to be okay.
yeah. Right. That's so true. I know. It amazes me when some of these people get fired. I'm like, I don't know how they could fire you after all these other crazies do all this stuff and get away with it. Just file
Yeah.
an EO, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
mean, unless you've stolen money, you're good.
Yeah, exactly. Like don't steal. Don't steal.
Don't
You know,
steal.
don't
But
steal time, don't falsify documentation, don't steal money, don't do things with no integrity. You're going to be fine.
yeah, if you make a mistake, you're going to be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Guess what? Delaying mail, you're still okay.
As long as you report it, just don't
Document
falsify it.
it.
Document
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
Report it. Exactly.
You know,
You might
people are
get
so,
a service, put them
yeah,
on mute.
put them on mute. Yeah. I've done that before.
Mm-hmm.
I have.
Crazy.
I've also said, and not listen to a word they said.
The real problem is that, talking about it right now, it's funny, but when you're in it, it
Oh,
feels so damn scary.
it
It
is.
feels
Yeah.
so scary when you're in it because you're thinking it's my livelihood and you don't understand. I didn't understand the politics until I got a job in district. When I got the job in district, I was like, oh, this is how the game plays. This is the chess game. I
Mm-hmm.
see it now. And it's such a click. It's like freaking high school for adults. It's ignorant. And not everyone's like that. There are some people who are full professional, of course. But for the majority, it was high school, the cool kids, the crackheads, whatever. Something I'm probably going to get canceled for, but I don't give a shit. Cancel. Nobody asked you to watch this podcast.
Yeah. Well,
Go,
and
go
that's,
away.
well, it goes back to what we talk about in Smile and summoning your courage. The first time way early in my career when I had to finally, because there's always that fear that you're going to lose your job, especially when you're an EAS. The first time you stand up for yourself and you face whatever comes your way, and then you go past it and you realize, okay, I'm still here. Nothing terrible happened. It might have been uncomfortable. It gives you that your courage starts growing then, and you start learning how to stand up for yourself. Especially when you find people that stand up for themselves too, and you kind of group together.
Mm-hmm.
Through my career, I've always had that one buddy that was like, "Hey, let's see if we can get away with not doing this report because nobody's been paying attention to it for 2 years. Let's see what happens if we don't do it today." You know.
Then you have like the other spectrum. I remember a friend, and she was awesome, and she kept every input that ever came through with the report. She kept it. She did it. I'm like, that's crazy. No wonder your hair fall. You're like, your hair's falling out.
Yeah. And I'm the opposite. I'm like, do we really have to do this? Let me not here. You do it today and you don't do it today and I won't do it tomorrow. Let's see what happens to us. But you know how many reports there were that I did that way that nobody ever looked at? It was just something that they started because it was important that day. And then
Mm-hmm.
2 years later, people are still sending that paper service in and nobody's even looking at it anymore, So it's like,
Well, that goes into a whole nother topic. The idea of keeping certain programs up and running and using them because some little dooflicky who's still employed in headquarters created it and it was their little baby and it's not efficient. I
yes.
remember the first time I experienced that, it was on the compliment side. And I'm like, I had this great idea that got submitted. You have to do like 100 votes or something to get
Right.
the idea promoted. So this idea was literally just creating one of those, like I think it's called NOA code that was different. So you could see like, okay, whether this person was like a transfer or were they excess or something like that. I can't even remember. I got a letter from the then HR head of HR, and it got like pushed away because the current person who is in charge, like one individual. There's like 100 people who are like, yes, please, God, which clearly meant that there was thousands of people who wanted it. But one little person was like, no, this is my baby and I'm going to keep it. And I really desperately want to say her name, but I won't, because I did respect her because she knew her job.
Yeah.
And I thought that in that way, she was an absolute badass. And maybe she was bitter because of the role she played in the company. But having such a closed and narrow mind to not try to have some progress that's outside of your own idea, what a disappointment that turned out to be. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the rule 3, but it's just the
No,
politics.
it's a good point though, because it's about the politics. And it's, well, apparently she got rule 3 down because she knew how to stand up for herself.
Yeah, she did. I mean, standing up against her was fun too.
Yeah.
I remember that. Remember that phone call? It was like 0 regrets. My manager called me. He was like, you shouldn't have done that. I'm like, why? You know what? Don't talk to me like that. And I do think at the end she respected me, which was great. And because I'm trying to do a good job. I want to do it your way. I'm not trying to not do it your way. I want to be the best at this, but I'm trying to tell you, like, hey, here's an opportunity for it to be more efficient. And don't sit there in one hand be like, oh, green belt, oh, yellow belt, oh, black belt, but then you have an opportunity to like fix something and you don't, because you don't really want it to be fixed. It's like everyone's like purposely breaking all the things so that they have job security.
That's a big frustration. Big frustration. You made a good point about speaking up, because when you do speak up, you do get that respect. Even if you have to pay that price, people respect you you don't get pushed around as much. If you never stand up for yourself, you're always going to be pushed to your limits. Always going to be working the 14-hour days, and you have to.
So how do you do it when you're in super fear? And they don't even want to admit they're in fear, but they're fear because their hair is falling out. They have high blood pressure. They're getting diabetes. They're getting sick. They're losing their teeth. They're becoming alcoholics. They're drinking all the time. You're day drinking. Okay, you've got a problem. Like, if you're drinking, everything, the bigger one.
Everything starts with baby steps. I think you really need to sit down and just write down all the things that you feel your boundaries are being pushed on, and then just take the littlest problem first and start making a baby step. Because you can't go out there and just blurt everything out that's going on, because it's the problem so big. It's like that saying they say, you have to take how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Right.
Like I always said, what if I don't like elephant? But anyway, so
eat it anyway.
Eat it anyway. Smaller bites.
Yeah. I don't like liver, but I've got to eat it. So
yeah.
Mix it with something else. I guess the mixing it with something else would be taking a step back and going back to the other rule that no one's going to save you. You have to save yourself, which I think is rule number 2. Going back to that is that if you're feeling like that and you don't know how, then use tools that are available to get you through it. So maybe the tools that are available are just like reading a book or meditating. Meditating has been amazing for me. I see huge changes in myself, in my reaction time to just things, because you don't realize how you're so almost brainwashed to like be in this certain like fear-based culture because you're just trying to survive. Yeah. And it was because of my personal belief system why I wouldn't dog eat dog. I was like, let me protect everybody and the low man, the people can't protect themselves. So I suddenly was like the big mouth to some people, the troublemaker to other people. And then to other people, I think they have positive views of me. Like, oh, she's a go-getter, she's an achiever. So it just really depended on your perspective. But there's only so much of that giving from your cup you can give before you've given it all and you're completely empty. And then that's when the health problems break in. And I think a lot of people don't have that because they don't have that connection with other people who can tell them the real talk. This is how it goes. Let's walk through it together. And they don't have that mentor that's going to stay there.
So true. And it also goes, you just made a good point about reacting, and that goes back to our rule of engagement number 1, respond, don't react. Regardless of what you decide to do about speaking up, you've got to plan it out like you talked about. You got to take the little thing first so you can build up your courage, and you
Mhm.
have to be calm when you do it and professional and not do a Virginia and be all dramatic, right?
Mhm. I mean,
Although
there was
some,
a reason for my drama. I was like diverting attention from the window.
yeah,
I
well, yeah,
mean,
well, I'm just saying sometimes drama is the only way you can get it out too. Like I could think of some times where I had some drama, you
right.
know, and did I regret it? I might regret the consequences, but sometimes you just have to get it out.
That's fair. I mean, that's fair. I mean, I try really hard to not be a unkind person in general. I think there's a lot of that depends on who you are, the quality of your character in general,
Hmm.
because there are people who could hear this and completely not believe it or take it the wrong way because they have some character flaws. So, touching on that, I want to say that there's nothing wrong with speaking up with an asterisk. And then the asterisk is
Yes.
going to say that you have to actually be a, I don't know how else to say it, a producer. You actually have to be a master of your role. You have to know how to do your job. Like the same, all the stuff you wrote on your e-career about how amazing you are at doing this when you applied for the job and you got it. Like be that person. Don't do a thing where you're so beat down that it's tag you're it and you pass the buck to somebody else and be like, oh, it's not my problem. They didn't do it. And also don't be the person where you're doing all the things. Like you have to find that middle ground. And I know it's hard when you're in the environment when it's like
Yeah.
layers and layers and layers because they do tie a weird, you have like a weird thing where the goal is 100% and they're
No
not going to,
mistakes.
yeah,
Yeah.
no mistakes ever. And then they tie your, how am I going to say that? I
It's
say it
almost
all
like your
the time.
worth. Your
Yes,
worth as a person. Yeah, your
yes,
worth as a person.
yeah. So they tie your like work ethic and your worth to these impossible goals. So then it's almost like a domestic abuse situation where you're like, this system's not going to lick me. And then you feel like bad because you couldn't live to a standard of perfection
Right.
that no human can and that you couldn't endure. So somehow you feel like you're a loser because you're like, absolutely not. I'm not taking this anymore
Yeah,
because
and
I'm
I
getting sick from it. I'm dying from it. How crazy was it on like a personal level where I couldn't tell the difference between excitement and stress. They felt the same to me. So then both of them, my body would react something crazy and like rocking a blood pressure of like 186 over like 130. I don't even know how I didn't die at a happy event. That's how I acted because it keeps you so stressed. And obviously, we can't shift your mindset. It's something you have to do yourself. Like no one's going to save you. But if you're feeling that crazy and you're listening to this, call in sick. That's what the hell it's there for. And fix yourself because your family's going to miss you. I promise you, the HRGP sucker will have your job posted in a New York minute. It won't
yeah.
even be 24 hours.
Yeah, when I think about it, I feel like I went in and out of that fear based and then being able to have the confidence, and I would go back and forth depending on my boss or whatever was going on, but in and out of that almost like self-esteem in a weird way. Like some days I'd feel great. Oh, I'm killing this job. It's great. I'm hitting all my goals and whatever. And then something would happen, and I would feel like you said, like I'm a loser. Not that dramatic, but like I'm not hitting my goal. So they gave me this really goal. So what's wrong with me? Why can't I do it? And then sometimes I would realize nobody can do this goal. And sometimes I wouldn't. I'll be like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
everybody else is doing this. I should be able to do it too. There's like that weird perception out there that everybody's hitting this goal but you. And it's really not true. They're all out there struggling, but just nobody knows it. So
I
I
mean,
think
I believe that what we're talking about, is probably all of corporate America. I
I
just
agree.
don't know if it's that bad, because we do have the extra layer, like people make their own rules. Then you have the rules that really are, they make their own. But then here we have 7 unions and all their freaking rules too. Like that's a lot. And then you have a new MPOO who doesn't know how to do their damn job, and they make new rules too, so they can look good in front of the district manager.
Right. Yeah.
Like you couldn't
Yeah.
even run your office full.
That's so true though.
Oh man.
Yeah, and all the distrust, so they're having you do all these extra steps because they don't trust you to do your job. So there's all that in there. So yeah, it's so overwhelming. But I do believe that the times that I was the best is either I two situations when I had a good boss, which was maybe 25-30% of the time, or when I had other people that thought like me that I could hang out with or that I could talk to. And if I go back in my career and I look at those 2 times, those are the times that I was the the healthiest, the most stable, and had the most fun.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. I think it's when I went to district is when I realized, I guess maybe the game. I guess that's the easiest way I can say it. That's when I really elevated myself. I mean, I was like that prior to as well, but realizing that piece, that shifted so many things for me because there, and of course it depends on what district you're in, but that fear-based thing, it all stemmed from whoever was running that unit, because there were years that we have a great district manager and things were great and professional, and then you have a freaking schloozer and things were bullies and idiots all over again. And that just it because these, I mean, not for anything, how are these people getting promoted, like based on what? I mean, how about this, having finance managers that don't have finance degrees? Like that doesn't even make sense to me.
No.
So I don't know. It's weird. I have a lot to say about it, but maybe I should stop talking.
Well, this one is just about number 3, rule of engagement, which is there's nothing wrong with speaking up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, glad you guys could join us next time. Who the hell knows what we're going to talk about? Because because y'all keep writing crazy stuff on Facebook.
It's
that
true.
needs to be addressed.
Maybe we should just come on here and just talk about Facebook posts.
You're like, okay, we're going to call out, do flicky. What exactly?
There's been some crazy Facebook posts for real. Yeah. I just want, go ahead. You tag your yeah. No, I think the crazy part for me about Facebook is when people go on there, I think it's great that people get help from each other. Like, help, how do you do this in tax? But I think it's super, super psycho crazy when you say, look at my KSAs. I just have to throw that out there to some rando on Facebook that you've never met before. And it's going to use your KSAs for who knows what, or sell them or whatever. I think that's wild. I mean, like, I just think that's nuts. Just saying.
Honestly, the things that go on the Facebook groups they're interesting. Sometimes they trigger me because there's like the know-it-alls in there, and then there's the ones that like just say answers based, and they're just because this happened in my district. This is a solid rule. Like come on, people. I mean, just get it together. The one thing that we can say is that it's all different everywhere because it's so dependent on your region, your MPOO, your district manager, your area. All of it changes. So be flexible and then do the work, do some due diligence. Like I'm glad everyone can help each other, but be nice to each other. It's like you're already feeling attacked by your bosses and stuff. So why are you attacking each other too? Like what the heck is that? Is that job is a hard job. Those frontline supervisors, acting supervisors, lower level postmasters, those are hard jobs. You're dealing with the public and you're dealing with the customers. It's like it's everybody's after you. So like, can you start with grace? Can you start with kindness? Can you stand up just a little bit with yourself and just reflect on the things that you're doing that you can change so that you can make it a better situation? And you don't have to be perfect. The greatest thing I ever realized is when I realized, you know what? I'm not the one delivering the mail. They are. I just need to give them what they need so they can do it, and let me figure that out. And that was an eye opener when I first started supervision. I was like, come on, get a grip. I want to
Absolutely.
support you and we want to support you because we know what you're going through, but you don't have to go through it. So that's why we're making the rules of engagement.
Rules of engagement, the lively office. And if you need any KSA help, you can go to getksahelp.com. You can also follow us on Instagram and YouTube at the lively office. Anything else going on, Virginia?
I don't know, but if you want us to talk about something, drop it in Facebook. Why not?
Oh, yeah, sure. We'll definitely talk about it.
Tag us. We'll talk about it. Say, talk about this. All right. Have a good night.
Good night.